Jimmy Butler makes the. I'm going to put this in the form of this question. Okay. Jimmy Butler makes the Philadelphia 76ers what?
The third best team in the Eastern Conference.
Third?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
How about
explain
this?
that.
The Boston Celtics, from top to bottom, probably have the best roster in the NBA. They're going to figure it out through these turbulent times. And the Toronto Raptors, though not a sexy pick by most people underestimate they were the #1 seed last year, added Kawhi Leonard, and all of their young pieces continue to get better. So those two teams, to me, are the top teams. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks are playing terrific basketball. You saw Brook Lopez make a ton of threes yesterday to go alongside the Greek Freak. The Philadelphia 76ers are now in that conversation, but they're not the best team in the conference just yet.
You agree?
I completely agree with him. He's absolutely right. I think they're the third best team in the Eastern Conference. You can't ignore what you're seeing from Milwaukee and the Greek Freak and the job that Budenholzer is doing coaching them, because he's getting them more open three-point shots, and I think that's made them more formidable. We saw a lot of contested shots in the past in Milwaukee. That's not what we're seeing right now. So we got to keep our eyes on them. But Toronto, clearly, the nucleus of their team remained intact, and you just replaced DeMar DeRozan with Kawhi Leonard. In Boston, you had the nucleus of their team intact, but you're returning Kyrie Irving and, of course, Gordon Hayward. So I look at those two as being a notch above the 76ers. But here's why I was so excited about Jimmy Butler arriving in Philadelphia, because now it puts a fair spotlight on Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And I don't think people have brought up enough. We see a guy like Joel Embiid, and we say this kid is a superstar and to make it an MVP candidate. But are you going to learn to play with your back to the basket better, as opposed to always having to face the basket? We look at Ben Simmons and we say, what is he supposed to do? This dude is a walking triple-double. Look at him special, a jump shot away from being the second coming of LeBron James. But here's the problem. We looked at Dario Saric. We looked at Ilyasova back in the past. We look at a guy like J.J. Redick, even though he moves great without the ball and what have you. When you're going against a team like the Boston Celtics, what happens is they have length and athleticism, and they go out and defend three-point shots well. They make you put the ball on the floor and create your own shot. You're not going to be a spot-up guy. So that inhibits the Philadelphia 76ers. But now by having Jimmy Butler, who can score by putting the ball on the floor, as well as catching and shooting, because he was a better catch and shoot three-point shooter than even Covington, who hit 189 three-pointers catch and shoot style last year. Because you're Jimmy Butler and you bring that dimension, now we get to look at Ben Simmons and say, what are you going to do to elevate your game? Joel Embiid, what are you going to do to elevate your game? And Brett Brown, what are you going to do to elevate your coaching? And that is what I love about Jimmy Butler arriving. It diminishes the excuses that the Philadelphia 76ers have in terms of looking at Boston and Toronto and saying they're a notch above, because they really shouldn't be if you guys learn to do what you're supposed to do.
What's happening at the top of the Eastern Conference is a pecking order that I'm going to distinguish style versus substance. The Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics drafted well and did a great job of acquiring players that could take them to the next level. The Philadelphia 76ers caught lightning in a bottle with two superstars in the draft with Embiid and Simmons, and then you get an all-NBA performer in Jimmy Butler to go with a J.J. Redick, as Stephen A. mentioned. However, they don't have the level of depth that the other two teams that I mentioned have, because they didn't miss on so many first-round picks. And as we talk about the process, let's not forget Michael Carter-Williams, Okafor, Saric, Fultz. These was all people that they drafted.
Fultz is the one who's still there. I'm very surprised with this, because it seems to me that exactly what Embiid and Simmons needed, in the same way we would have thought that Towns and Wiggins would have benefited from this, and they seem not to have. It went the opposite way. Was a guy like Jimmy Butler who's going to come in there, who's got that scrappy mentality, who's going to D everybody in the building up from the minute the ball is thrown in the air, who can score better than most people think. He plays 46 minutes a night. I think he makes them, to me, I'm not sure. I don't think they're the team to beat in the East now.
Philly?
Yeah, I do.
No, you're absolutely wrong. And the reason why you're wrong is because of what Jalen says. The absence of depth. And you bring up Markelle Fultz. Let's face reality. Listen, we're sorry that Brian Colangelo lost his job for all the reasons that he lost his job. But if you want to make a legitimate basketball reason as to why he should lose his job, it would be the drafting of Markelle Fultz, who's pretty damn close to being a bust. Let me just put this stuff on national television. The brother can't shoot. He can play. He can score the ball, rather. But he cannot shoot right now. He's got to fix that shot. Otherwise, he's going to be one of the biggest busts that we've seen in NBA history. That's the path he's going on right now. They've been starting him. That's over and done with. You'll see Jimmy Butler starting with Simmons, with Embiid. You'll probably have Wilson Chandler starting, okay, and you might have J.J. Redick starting, so you can put Jimmy Butler at the 3. As Jalen pointed out, you're not going to have any depth, and you cannot beat Toronto and Boston without depth.
And it's the beauty of basketball. That's why I talked about style and substance versus catching lightning in a bottle, because the Sixers do have 3 of the top 9 or 10 players in the entire conference.
Right.
But yet, when you look deeper into their weaknesses, which all players, all teams have them, they were 21st in three-point shooting. They didn't improve by losing Covington and Saric. And also, when you talked about Fultz not being able to shoot, Ben Simmons can't shoot either.
Well, that's the whole point.
So that's going to suppress the floor to the point where teams like Boston and Toronto is going to elevate them defensively.
But that's why I was saying that about Butler, because Butler, being who he is and what he brings to the table, now we're looking at 2 basketball on-court elements. Ben Simmons, you got to improve your shot. And Joel Embiid, as great as you are, you've got to play more with your back to the basket.
But the Sixers are going to be a terror defensively.
That's what I'm saying. To me, they have 3 of the 6 best players in the Eastern Conference. All right, we're going to leave this here for the moment.